Yo, what's good? It's Skano. You got different levels of crazy, right? You got people that's, off, maybe a little different, weird, but not a threat per se, you know. You got people that are, you know, trying to hold it together, but right on the verge of flashing at all times. Then you got people that's just obviously gone. You know what I'm saying? It's not hard to tell that they got issues. And I think you have a lot of individuals out here that just cannot, you know what I'm saying, like read the writing on the wall. So this woman, Afeni Muhammad, 26-year-old Afeni Muhammad, now this happened in East Point, Michigan, and I believe the victim in it, Jennifer Henderson, I believe, 30-year-old Jennifer Harris. I'm sorry, a manager at McDonald's who was stabbed to death by, Miss Afeni, and an employee, you know, at this location. Now everybody is obviously, painting a portrait of this, this girl Afeni, this woman, as being crazy. And I mean, that's the simple, you know, I think that's the most simplest outcome, But the fact is that she wasn't that crazy that she couldn't hold down a job. But we know I personally know there are people in society who are trying to assimilate, but may not actually be, cut out for secular society activity. They just don't work well with others. Look, I'm not going to play armchair psychologist like the rest of the internet is doing. Obviously, this chick had issues, you know. Most normal people, now, she felt like she was being bullied. This is the point I'm going to get to. Now, her manager, Jennifer, like I said, and this is not about, victim blaming, but I look at things, in a panoramic perspective. You got people out here, like I said, they barely hold on as far as, normalcy is concerned. And any type of pressure, you know, they prone to. This chick took to social media, often, to complain about her job, specifically the manager, Jennifer. She didn't mention her by name, I'm assuming. But who the hell knows? So there was already some, animosity. Now, I don't know how the victim perceived her. To her knowledge, she could have been totally unaware. And see, when you're dealing with a certain type of psychopathy, you know what I'm saying? People who, borderline schizophrenic, paranoid, delusional, in the sense that they can be normal, they can pass as normal, but they have these little inner glitches, you know what I'm saying? And they become hyper focused on things that most people brush off or most people just take with a grain of salt, like being at, fronted on at work or being, what they perceive as bullying. And I'm not saying that she wasn't, because it's every person got a different perspective of what they feel like. But I think most people would agree that if you're dealing with a manager that's like, an asshole, most people would just cuss him out and quit, you know what I'm saying? And that's that. Move on to the next job. Or just quit. But like I said, You got people out here that take things to the highest level they can go, and I don't think it's because she crazy. You know, those prohibitors that normal people have. Anyway, so she feels that she was being, bullied by a bad manager and being sent home, singled out, being sent home early. And she's saying how that is affecting her. Obviously, you know, she's not getting paid for not being there. We all got bills, woo woo. And so she already had issues, obviously. And whatever occurred on that day, she decided that was it, man. But the girl was in her social media, posting in a Chucky mask. She was displaying certain behaviors that, okay, the girl was off. I don't think she's crazy per se, but she definitely off, you know. And obviously, Jennifer could not read between the lines, if what this girl's saying is true, putting her hands on her, tapping her, whatever. And like I said, normal people, things that they brush off. When you're talking about somebody who's like, and I'm not, like I said, going to try to diagnose this woman, but like I said, having my own issues with personality disorder. It's certain people you can't, even touching them can be a trigger. You know what I'm, it changes their whole energy and they become hostile, agitated. Especially if you continuously, on their neck. It's people out here that should be getting an SSI check. Maybe I'm one of them. Because just being around other people and being in certain environments will trigger them. And like I said, it's abnormal, but it is what it is. So this girl was not crazy, but she definitely off. It seems that she was convicted for, poking somebody not too long ago, or however long ago it was. So that is on her record. I wonder if this woman's family, Jennifer Harris, if they have grounds for some type of lawsuit against McDonald's, or is she, but she wouldn't be made privy to this woman's medical background. You see what I'm saying? So there needs to be better, screening processes going on, but like I said, if you were to eliminate everybody in society that got some type of mental or emotional, we wouldn't have, the workforce would fall apart, man. I'm telling you, the average person is dealing with something. I really believe that. It just depends on what they're dealing with, to what extreme. Most of us can pass as normal, but I'm beginning to realize I'm not just the only one out here that has issues. And this is going to sound kind of crazy. I believe, in my experience, I just from day to day activities, it seemed that a majority of women in this country are dealing with something you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all borderline crazy to begin with. And I think you have a recipe. I think most women are more prone to mental disorder because they grow up so hyper focused on role playing. And, maybe I'm getting off track with this one. I'm going to keep it. It just seemed in my experience, a lot of women that I run across do be like borderline off. Not necessarily, dangerous, but they be off, And it's like cute at first, and then you be like, yeah, this chick crazy, But, woo woo. It's certain people that you do have to treat certain people different. Now we say, everybody got to get treated the same. That's not how the world works. if you as a manager dealing with somebody that seem a bit, you know what I'm saying? It's a certain way you might have to deal with them. Or are you cognizant of that? Because like I said, man, what one person may brush off as being, I might take it in my mind as being something nefarious. Like you singling me out. And this is how a person that's paranoid, you know, that has a paranoid, personality, normal criticism to them is ground like they feel like they are being targeted. Now you are op. You know what I'm saying? You want to destroy their life. They are obsessed with the thought that you are trying to destroy them, you have it out for them, and in your mind, y'all done just had an interaction that's normal as, that you have with any other employee. Nothing that all the while this person in their mind has machinated this whole delusion. And not to say she didn't have some grounds, man, because I don't know that she wasn't being bullied. But nobody else seemed to have come forward to support this or, say, yeah, this manager was abrasive, whatever, woo woo. So this seems to have been something that she has machinated in her mind. And that's what I'm saying, everybody cannot read energy. Everybody doesn't have experience with dealing with, even because a lot of people can disguise their quirks, man. When you out and about, people train themselves to appear normal. And I'm not saying everybody is a sociopath, although I do believe more than half of the population has sociopathic traits, but woo-woo. Everybody cannot pick up on these signifiers. Like this person, maybe they shouldn't have been hired to begin with. But like I said, on the surface, a lot of people out here dealing with shit that they can appear normal. But what is abnormal? I think it's abnormal to, if you get sent home early, or to come back and stab somebody to death. I think that most would consider that to be abnormal behavior. But obviously to someone that is touched, there is no abnormal. So while it may come across like I'm victim blaming, I'm just trying to point out, I do believe that we are in a society where most people just are not tapped in, or cognizant of the people that are around them. People so self-absorbed. Now, Afeni states that, on her social media, one of her rants that, I shouldn't say rants, that this woman would have, the victim, she would discuss, Jennifer would discuss how, she had to flash out on her teenage kids at some point. She came home and something occurred where she had to kick in her own door and pull the hammer and lay down the law and woo woo. And Afeni apparently took that as some form of low key aggression, like a under, what I'm saying, like a low key threat. As if old girl was trying to, low key put it out there. Yeah, you kind of off, I could tell, but I'm crazy too, bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just, what I'm getting from it. And that's pretty much what she flat out says, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not afraid of that. So she already, like I said, man, she has villainized this woman. She felt like that was a threat. And right there is where I think in her mind, it went from, I don't like this person to this person is a threat to me. You know what I'm saying? This is someone who, a full-blown op, man. And obviously she has no problem stabbing somebody because she's done it before. So now there's footage of her, her posting, a dude pressing her for sex. Now her living arrangements seem to be, her personal life seemed to be kind of you know, it adds on to the narrative that this woman was dysfunctional and it was chaotic. You know, like this dude that she was, in the guise of befriending her in hard times, was pressing her for sexual favors or whatnot, and her, spazzing out, and as much as people want to portray her as being crazy, there are moments where I don't think she full blown crazy, and I can relate to her, expressing how people need to be cognizant how they treat other people. You know what I'm saying? So while everybody is quick to just paint her as being a sociopath, it's people out here that they don't set out to harm other people, but they are prone to violence when they feel like they are being persecuted or targeted. And it may be over the top. It may be, you know what I'm saying, inappropriate, or like I said, to normal people. But what's normal to you is not normal to me. A normal response to pressure, to the next person. You understand what I'm saying? So, not excusing her actions. She gonna face the consequences. But don't be surprised if this woman don't get life in prison. And don't be surprised if, based on her apparent, you know, obviously mental and emotional, something's going on. Don't be surprised this woman, you know what I'm saying, is back on the streets in less than a decade, 8 years, 10 years, something to that effect. But based on her prior conviction for stabbing, second thought, this could go both ways. She may never see the streets again if they are to, and they would have to, you know what I'm saying, consider her prior. But if she's diagnosed to have some type of mental illness, she'll be back on the streets maybe in 5 years. You know what I'm saying? But it's a lot of ticking time bombs, strolling around in society. And like I said, we got a society full of people that are abrasive, callous, just disrespectful. And y'all just don't be realizing, while a lot of y'all are prone to try to play crazy, there's people out here that's trying to play normal. No ops left Scano. You already know.